Welcome to Provoking Perspectives. I'm Miss Bree, and lately I have been paying attention to how emotionally tired people seem right now, not just socially, emotionally. And honestly, I think a lot of Black communities are carrying pressure in ways that don't always get discussed openly. For example, you got the pressure to survive. You have the pressure to ugh, you have the pressure to provide. You have the pressure to stay strong, the pressure to succeed, the pressure to represent. And that's what's interesting is that even though these conversations seem different on the surface, they all are connected underneath. Whether we're talking about Michelle Obama discussing the pressure of becoming, or inflation and financial survival, or Black women carrying emotional labor, or teenagers navigating social media, or political exhaustion and representation. At the core of it all, it's all about pressure in the Black community. And I think a lot of people are emotionally exhausted right now. So let's talk about it. So, recently, Michelle Obama spoke again about emotional weight of growth, public visibility, and constantly evolving under pressure. And honestly, I think that conversation resonated with so many people because growth sounds inspiring until you actually have to live through it emotionally. People celebrate the outcome of growth, the success, the healing, and the accomplishments. And we all know this and see this all the time. But people rarely talk about the emotional costs attached to becoming somebody new while also still carrying pressure privately, especially us Black women today. Because many Black women are expected to evolve, succeed, heal, nurture others, remain emotionally strong, and still carry responsibilities all at the same freaking time. And I think social media has made growth look aesthetically beautiful while ignoring how emotionally exhausting growth can actually feel in real life. Growth can feel lonely. Growth can feel emotionally draining. Growth can make people question themselves. And eventually, pressure starts affecting how people see themselves emotionally. And honestly, I truly think that's why conversations around growth hit people so differently right now. It's like sometimes people don't even want to talk about it because it's so hard to focus on becoming your best self when people are struggling, just trying to feel stable day to day. And eventually, emotional pressure starts blending into survival pressure. Food for thought. Yeah, food for thought. And inflation has intensified emotional pressure for a lot of families. People are watching food prices increase, housing costs increase, bills increase. And meanwhile, many people feel like their income isn't stretching the way it used to. I think people underestimate that financial instability does to people emotionally over time. Well, what it does, technically, because eventually financial survival changes how we all think sometimes. People they stop dreaming so freely. People stop resting mentally. People stop feeling emotionally secure. Everything becomes about surviving the next bill, the next rent payment, or the next emergency. And for many Black families, especially, financial pressure can feel layered because many communities are already navigating generational economic gaps and instability. And I see it. So when inflation rises, people don't just feel stressed financially, they feel emotionally exhausted a lot of the times, truthfully. And when survival mode lasts way too long, people eventually stop asking themselves if they are emotionally okay. They just keep going and going. They keep working. They keep producing. They keep carrying all these responsibilities on their backs. And honestly, I think hustle culture has normalized emotional burnout in so many dangerous ways because society praises exhaustion like it's ambition. I mean, people glorify freaking overworking, overproducing, never resting. And I think Black women especially, have been conditioned to normalize emotional labor in so many unhealthy ways. The strong Black woman expectation has created generations of women who feel pressure to carry everything emotionally while appearing composed publicly. Family pressure, you have work pressure, you have financial pressure, and then you on top of that, you got caregiving pressure, right? And many women are carrying all of that while still trying to survive emotionally for themselves. And honestly, I think productivity often hides that emotional exhaustion on the forefront. Some people are not functioning because they are okay emotionally. They are functioning because they don't feel like they have the permission to fall apart. And eventually, burnout comes identity. Excuse me, burnout becomes your identity. People become so used to surviving under pressure that exhaustion starts feeling so freaking normal. And now imagine learning that kind of pressure before you even fully know who you are yet. Because adults are exhausted, but honestly, there are younger generations are growing up emotionally overwhelmed too. I mean, heck, for example, kids today are actually growing up inside of algorithms. Think about that. Their confidence is being shaped online. Their identity is being shaped online. Their self worth is being shaped online. And I think that creates emotional pressure much earlier than previous generations experienced it. Teenagers today are constantly, and I mean constantly, comparing themselves to filtered lifestyles, unrealistic beauty standards, and curated versions of what success looks like online. And because social media never really turns off emotionally, many young people never fully disconnect either. The pressure follows them everywhere they go. And honestly, I think parents are overwhelmed too, because now parenting includes trying to emotionally protect children from digital environments and constantly influence confidence, attention spans, and mental health. And I don't think society fully understands yet what emotional overstimulation is doing to people psychologically, especially our younger people. And then the pressure doesn't really only affect people privately anymore in their households. Sometimes pressure becomes public, it becomes visible, it becomes symbolic. Sometimes when people feel connected to what somebody represents beyond themselves. Well, especially that's when people feel connected to that. So, and I think that's why conversations around Black visibility and Black leadership feel so emotionally layered right now. Because people often place emotional expectations onto our Black leaders, our Black creators, our Black politicians, and public figures that go beyond normal public pressure. Representation becomes so symbolic, and symbolic pressure is so heavy. People expect visible Black figures to represent entire communities perfectly, to never fail publicly, to always carry themselves in a certain way. And honestly, I think people sometimes forget that visibility does not erase humanity. Public figures still get tired. They still feel the pressure and they still struggle emotionally like you and I every day. And I think society often celebrates Black visibility instead of the burden that becomes attached to it. Once representation becomes so emotional, politics becomes emotional too. Have you have you ever thought about that, y'all? Because for many people, these conversations are no longer just policy. They feel personal, they feel historical, and they feel so emotional. two things for certain. I think Black people in Black communities are politically exhausted right now, too. Not because people just simply don't care anymore, but because people are tired emotionally. They're tired of the division. They're tired of the fear based conversations. They're tired of feeling like every election carries survival implications. And I think that what makes these conversations even more complicated is that there are multiple perspectives inside of Black communities themselves, different generations, different lived experiences, different beliefs about progress and protection. And honestly, I think many people are emotionally drained by political disclosure altogether. People want honesty these days. They want peace. They want emotional stability. But instead, many conversations feel emotionally exhausting before they even begin. I mean, some people just quit while they're ahead. They don't even talk politics at the table no more. But even with all this pressure that we tend to have, I still think people are searching for something a lot softer. People want peace. We want connection, for spaces where we can finally exhale emotionally. And honestly, I sometimes think, community matters more now than ever. Matter of fact, I feel like that's a fact because people are tired of performing strength all the freaking time. People want spaces where they can be honest without being judged, spaces where they can breathe emotionally, spaces where they can feel understood at the heart. And I think healing sometimes start with honest conversations, y'all, not performative conversations, not outrage driven conversations, real conversations, the kind that remind people that they are not the only ones carrying pressure emotionally. And maybe that's what Provoking Perspectives is really about, creating a space for reflection, creating a space for all that honesty I've been preaching about, creating space for perspective. And as I reflect on all of these conversations, the news that we all heard this week, from Michelle Obama discussing pressure of becoming, to inflation, to burnout, to social media, to politics and representation, I think one thing becomes very clear here. A lot of people are emotionally exhausted right now, and many Black communities are carrying emotional pressure in layered ways that society doesn't always fully acknowledge. The pressure to survive, the pressure to succeed, the pressure to represent, the pressure to stay emotionally strong while quietly feeling overwhelmed here. But I also think honest conversations matter too, because people need spaces where they can fully feel seen, spaces where they can feel heard, spaces where they feel less alone in what they are carrying emotionally. And that's what I hope to bring to Provoking Perspectives as we continue to create. So, thank you for being a part of this conversation today. I am Miss Bree, and this has been Provoking Perspectives. Keep in mind that we are always here to provoke thought and share perspectives.